that was essentially the atmosphere. And then I'll go on to talk about wind, which is also part of the atmosphere. But I'll just be discussing this in more detail. And okay, let's just take a moment to admire the high-res background. Okay, so wind formation. Wind results from the unequal heating of the Earth's surface. And if you recall our lesson from yesterday, that seems kind of like a convection current, right? Okay, so I'll go back to that later. So wind itself is actually just the air movement from high to low pressure. So if you know about diffusion, it's basically that principle. So things like to move from high pressure concentration to low pressure concentration, just as a result of random movement, like they bump into each other a lot. The molecules bump into each other a lot at higher pressures, and they want to, and then that ends up separating them eventually. So in these diagrams, I'll first talk about water in itself. So the reason why these diagrams work is because of water's super high specific heat. So specific heat is the amount of heat needed to raise 1 gram of a substance by 1 degree Celsius. So the water's specific heat is really high, and it needs, you need to put in a lot of energy for the temperature to raise even just a little bit. So that's why in this example, during the day, the land warms up a lot more quickly than the water does. So the warmer air gets less dense, it rises, cools, and it becomes more dense, and there is a convection cell or convection current. And then the opposite thing happens at night. So the land cools a lot more quickly than the water does, and the warm air over the water rises, and then becomes cooler, becomes more dense, and that completes the cycle. So the actual wind is this cold air coming back. So this would be called a sea breeze, and this would be called a land breeze. So wind speed and direction. Wind speed is usually measured with an anemometer, so this thing here. So the wind pushes through these cups, and this whole thing rotates. And then you can quantify the speed by like seeing how many times it rotates per unit time. And this is actually pretty interesting because the design hasn't actually changed much from when it was initially invented. There have been other anemometers, but like it's cool to think that this thing is still being used. And the wind vane is used for wind direction. So you can actually combine those two and form this thing. So basically you have the anemometer that is flipped onto its side. So when the wind moves past it, it can still spin and tell you the speed. But there's also this flappy bit. So like when the wind blows, the whole thing is going to turn, and that's going to tell you the direction of the wind. And there are two main ways to determine the direction. So you can use degrees azimuth. That's just fancy for just degrees from north. So north would be 0, and then everything would be the angle from north. And cardinal direction is north, east, southwest. And you can also see these weird ones like north, northeast, northeast. So yeah, they're just further divisions of the cardinal directions. And winds are named based on the direction they are coming from. So I will stress this a lot because I kept forgetting this before. So for example, I'll talk about westerlies and easterlies when I'm talking about global winds later. So westerlies are winds that come from the west and go to the east, while easterlies are come from the east and go to the west. And so that same thing, same naming convention happens for this. So as I said before, this is called a sea breeze because the wind is coming from the sea and going to the land. And this is called a land breeze because the wind is coming from the land and to the sea. So yeah, the name is based on the direction it is coming from. Okay, I think I've said that enough. So the Coriolis effect is the reason why winds look like they are curving. So if you look in this GIF, I don't know, the ball is rolling in a straight line and the disc behind it is turning. So even though the actual movement is straight, when you look at it with respect to the spinning disc, it actually appears to curve. So that same thing happens with the Earth. So the Earth rotates, and so if the wind goes in this direction, it will go straight, but because the Earth is turning beneath it, if you look at it from the perspective of the continents and where they are, the wind looks like it is actually curving. And so in the Northern Hemisphere, the Coriolis effect makes the wind curve to the right or clockwise, while in the Southern Hemisphere, the wind curves to the left or counterclockwise. And this is just the global wind patterns. So you can see in like these curved lines, this demonstrates the Coriolis effect. So in the Northern Hemisphere, it goes clockwise if you like follow these two. And in the Southern Hemisphere, it goes counterclockwise if you follow these. And there are some three main cells. They're convection cells, and they drive the wind movement. So the Hadley cell is from the heating of the equator. So the warmer air near the equator rises and then falls back, cools, sinks down, and that is one convection cell. And the same thing happens for the polar cells. So even though polar cells are like much colder than Hadley cells, in comparison, the air over here is warmer than the air around it. So it still rises and then cools and sinks and comes back. So it's the same reasoning as the Hadley cell. And the Ferrel cell is kind of like it just strung along by the Hadley and polar cells. So you can see it's actually in the opposite direction. So the Hadley cell, the air can actually go like this way or this way. And the polar cell, when the air rises, it can go this way or this way. And then that actually makes up the Ferrel cell. So that makes the Ferrel cell a lot weaker because it depends on the surrounding cells for energy, and it doesn't actually have its own source of energy. So it's kind of, I guess, a gear. So it's like it itself is not actually like moving, but the ones around it make it move. And yeah, here from earlier, I mentioned westerlies. So westerlies come from the west, easterlies come from the east. Okay, and the intertropical convergence zone is also known as the doldrums, and the horse latitudes are approximately 36 degrees. And these are areas of calm because the winds are like going like around them. So the wind is blowing, like for example here or this way, and these areas are where there is not a lot of wind.